Okay.
Alrighty.
Yeah, I'm back.
You're a busy young man.
Hmm?
You are a busy young man.
Why is it that?
I don't know. It just seems like you're everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty
Working,
much.
going to school, you out in the community.
Yeah.
That little radio thing, and now you're doing this conference call. And I don't see how you have the time to prepare.
Just learning time management.
Or lack of sleep.
Yeah, that too. That's the main thing, is about my body has gotten to the point where it's pretty much 4 hours a day.
Man.
Literally. I mean, part of that was because of working overnight, but my body is at that 4 hour point now.
That can't be good for your health.
No, hasn't really gone down yet. It's up and down, but you know, it is what it is. I'm just trying to stay as productive as possible.
How's your Crohn's disease? You doing okay with that? Managing?
Managing. Just going into just changing diet. That's the first thing, diet, and then surroundings. That's the two things I'm working on now, diet and surroundings.
You got to manage that stress level.
Yeah, that's it. That's the main thing.
I know.
I can definitely take control of that. Especially the food part is even more, but the surrounding part a lot of times can be difficult. But when I can control it, I do.
Mhm.
Definitely. I don't put people around that don't mean no good.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
Every now and then, some jump on Facebook though.
Yeah, every now and then you get sillies. You get the silly people, and then it's wild, man. It really is.
These are grown people. These aren't kids.
Yeah.
I have a question, brother. You had posted a picture or something. I think you did, and there was 3 brothers, and they were in the Muslim attire.
Yeah.
Who are these brothers?
The 2 on the side, I have no idea, but the one in the middle is my brother.
That's your brother?
Yeah, that's my brother. Yeah,
He's
that's my
older
brother.
than you?
Yeah, he would have been 40. I think he would have been 39 or 40 this year, if I'm not mistaken.
But did he pass away?
Huh?
Did he pass away?
Yeah, he was killed. He was killed back in 98.
Man, are you serious?
Yeah, he was killed in 98. He was gunshot at a party. He was shot in the heart.
Man.
And he was like my father's like protege at a time. He used to teach too. He used to speak Arabic fluently, read out the Quran like it was nothing. I mean, he used to lead adults in prayer. And this is just stuff I know. Well, not I know, but that I've been told about him from other sources of people.
You never got to meet him?
No, I never got to meet him. I didn't move in until '99. This is after he already, had made his transition from getting shot. Yeah. So no, I never met him. I just hear about him. Yeah.
Quite a young man, I guess.
Yeah. He was no, word was that he was very powerful. I mean, he knew he was special. The thing is, you're special. You have to carry yourself a certain way.
Yeah.
And he did. He carried himself a certain way. He was very mindful of it wasn't about so much of doing what he wanted to do and going out there and doing negative things. He knew he was different. He knew that he had a gift to teach and had a divine gift to do what he was doing at the time. And it was crazy. Imagine where, if that had not have happened, what would have happened? what if factor, what if factor we know doesn't even exist. It doesn't exist. It just, everything happens. It happens as it happens. But those are things that people can think about.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about
that too.
Did
they catch the people or the person who did this?
No, they never did.
No.
They never knew. Never found out who it was. It was just, and it never was any arrest or anything, from what I was told. Nothing. Nope, nothing.
Settle.
Nothing at all.
Another day in U.S. of A.
Right. Roll back.
Roll back.
So yeah, but that was what that was. But yeah, let me start class. Does anybody have any questions pertaining to the doctrine before I go into the subject?
Actually, I had a question about the system. So if it gets loud in the background, do I have a mute thing? Is it *6?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
A mute button for my background noise, just in case.
Oh, how do you mute yourself?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think you would be able to just. Do you have a mute button on your phone?
I don't. I'll try.
Okay.
I think normally with this, I think it's *6, but I'll try.
I think it's either #6, #7. I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah. *6. Oh, there you go. *6.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah. Anyone have any questions? Okay. The DivinityCodes.com defines Christ consciousness as a state of mind, and it is the goal of all light workers to seek to attain a spiritual journey to oneness with God. It is also a reactivation healing session that includes a complete heart chakra, clearing and restoration that reconnects you to the universal Christ consciousness grid and restores your cellular memory as a Christed being. The I'm America map talks about Christ consciousness as those that have mastered the physical, such as Buddha, Brahma, Christ, etc. These were part of what we would know or refer to on the I'm America map as a white brotherhood, these certain deities who have mastered the physical form. But if you go into our information, you realize that going into what's known as Christ consciousness, it's similar to what they are saying, but it's more in depth, meaning that Christ consciousness is basically going into the 9 minds and going into the 9 principle. And other organizations or other religions or other cultures will go into the 7 chakras, as well as, the root seed, you're going from 1 all the way up into 7 and everything. And the perception of this is still very cloudy to a lot of us Nubians of this country, because a lot of us have not sat with certain teachers other than just my father. Most of them still don't understand, regardless of how many times he's broken it down, whether it be in Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, and even in AEO, people still have a problem as of defining what it means to get to the 9th principle, or even just the 7 chakras itself. You have to realize those that were teaching you of the 7 chakras can only get to 7 themselves. Do realize when you're saying 6, before we get to 7, think of 6. The number 6 is defined by the human beast's number or the Tamhu's number or the Tayyum Hayu's number. That means that it can only get to 6. Where the 6 stops at for them, that's exactly where it stops at for them. 6. When you're dealing with 7, if you're dealing with the Hinduism's information, Islam gets their teachings of the 7 chakras from Hinduism, because those that are of the Hindu seed only goes up to 7 ether. So when you're dealing with 7 chakras, you're dealing with it from those who are teaching it from an etheric perspective. In other words, I can only give you the amount that I'm only entitled to as a specific race or species. And then when we're going into 8, which is at 4 and 4, the mixed beings of this planet, known us as Nubians, we are at 8 ether beings. The biggest kept secret when we were being taught as of who we were and who we were not, or who we are and who we are not, is that we are not non-ether beings. We are en route to becoming non-ether beings once again. That's why this is known as the revolutionary cycle. We are 8 ether as of right now because of mixing in. None of us are indigenous. None of us are Nubian or Olmec people. That's the reality. And if we accept that fact and stop saying to ourselves, I am original, and having a complex about ourselves, then we can truly and only truly make that transformation, because we have now stepped out of the ego of self and going into the science of self. That is right now. That is right reasoning, and that is right understanding. You have to be able to understand the fact that you still have a journey. You follow? When you're going into this information of oneness, realize that cause and effect still plays a huge part in oneness. In other words, the things that you are being involved in, the things that you or that is bothering you in your regular life, whether it be bills, whether it be school, whether it be work, whether it be family, whether it be relationships, these are all things that do not allow you to get to that nine mind, or what the Western world or other cultures refer to as the Christ consciousness, when you have reached your full potential as a specific being. The Christians, in their doctrine, in their religion, speak of a Christ consciousness and say, in that definition, you are Christ-like. You have to remember, the book of Hebrews chapter 5, verse 7 refers to Jesus Christ, or Yahshua bar Miriam, or Isa el-Messiah, being inducted into the order of Melchizedek, or the ancient Egyptian order. So you can look at it from two perspectives, or however many perspectives you want to look at it. You can look at it from different schools of thought. Example, if you're saying he was inducted into the ancient Egyptian order of Melchizedek, then that's the order of Hebrews. Or if you want to say that he was inducted into the Zhahuti order because the ancient or mystic order of Melchizedek, or Om, was taken from A-E-U. It was taken from us. Or if you want to say, hey, yo, that is up to you, that is your preference of choice. But you have to realize that the contradiction of religion or Christianity teaches us that you need to be Christ-like in order for you to get to heaven. That is what we are taught. We are, as Christians, you are striving to be Christ-like. But if you say, so I can do what he did, can I walk on water, can I levitate, can I heal people, can I heal myself, can I feed a multitude of people? I say, no, that's what Jesus did. You can't do what Jesus did, but you just said I can be Christ-like. You said I should strive to be Christ-like. You didn't say that I can only do certain things. So in reality, religion itself is still limiting what you can do. It still limits the amount of consciousness that you can get to. I didn't say enlightenment. Notice I did not say enlightenment, because again, enlightenment literally just means to blind. You follow, all light is energy. I can say endarkenment because that's where we're going. That's where we're headed, because all intellect or outellect manifests in what? Darkness. But going back to the subject again, Christianity only allows us, or only allows a certain amount of information to be given, because they do not want that specific individual to reach their full potential. Jesus Christ reached his full potential. If you study that specific subject about Jesus Christ, regardless of whether you believe it or not, it doesn't make a difference. But if you study that specific character, he rose himself up, because remember, he rose himself up in the Dead Sea Scrolls, if you're reading Dead Sea Scrolls, which was connected by my father, Dr. Malachi Z. York, and connected all the stories together, realized he lived to be 120 years old. This was Joshua, and he reached his full potential, and there he had a cardiac arrest in Egypt. 1 + 2 = 3. You can go into ancient Egypt and realize that Haru, which the Greeks call Horus, reached his full potential, and the same stories are very identical. Realize that the Yahshua story is nothing but the Haru story stolen. You understand what I'm saying? When you're dealing with Haru, who is the manifestation, again, or the reincarnation of Asaru, who was killed by his brother Setuch. Yavon was chopped up in 14 different pieces and set out from the side, or set out during the sea and put in the water, and his consort had to go get those pieces through artificial insemination and put him together, and through artificial insemination have Haru. You follow the same thing in Christianity, where they say Jesus Christ was born of a virgin birth, coming down from God. The Spirit of God moves upon her, and he was born. She did not have sex. Well, that is the same situation that was taken from ancient Egypt, where Asit, or Isis, did not have sex but had to impregnate herself. She still had to do something that consisted of some form of scientific matter. See, religion does not or cannot mix in science and religion because it will contradict itself. So they have to stay in sensationalism to keep you binded, or to keep you in that state of belief and faith. But going back into what we're talking about now, realize Haru, like Jesus, rose to Reha Achat, the same way Yeshua, or Jesus, or Isa, rose to Sanunda. So yes, there is a point. These beings that we look at are replicas of things that we can do ourselves, realizing that within yourself, realize that anytime you see a specific being or a specific person, you are dealing with someone who is a flow of energy. And depending on how fast they are vibrating is what you will see. And where you are within yourself is whether you will see the colors or the aura around them, or the electromagnetic field that surrounds that individual. That is the problem. The Freemasons refer to something that's called the plumb line. That is the yod, or the hand of God. When you're dealing with the plumb line, or the hand of God, you're realizing that you're dealing with, and I'm referring from the 9 principles of the human being, these two poles in the third aspect of the triad or trinity, the point of control where you climb up that lead line, which is the plumb line, and grip that hand or yod or hand of the Creator, Chenum, Hiapis, or Hrafis. The Muslims call him Halachun in Syriac Arabic, from the Hebrew word Halak, who guided while in Egypt for 430 years, which is spoken of in Genesis chapter 15, verse 13, years as a Hasut Hyksos. You have to realize that Freemasonry got their concept of the yod, or the plumb line, which is known as the hand reaching down, or the yod grabbing up a specific person out the muck and mire, from who is known as Halak, or Chenum, or the fashioner of ancient Egypt, or a deity of ancient Egypt. And so if you look at this specific deity, he was something that was from the goat family. Notice that anytime they did something of ritual, they had a mask of a certain animal over their head for rituals, which was for him, Chenum, that was a ram, or a benabdet ram. And when you're dealing with us as where we're supposed to be getting to, that is our problem, is that we are stuck in what we are being defined from these specific religions. In order for you to get back to 9, you have to release what you thought was real, such as the 7 chakras and these things. They're nice to play with in these specific schools of thought, but they're not defining who we are as a people. That is our biggest problem. We have to let those situations go. You follow? So it's, again, and I want to hit this home because, again, quoting 9 Principles of Human Being, they grab and grip God's creation hand to stop creation or the fashioner on the potter's wheel of each being from the clay, mud, dust of the earth. In the Bible, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, verse 8, and the Quran, chapter 23, verse 12. This is what the Hyksos Canaanite Caucasians have done to you, Tarnunites, for over 400 years under mental and physical bondage. So you have to realize we are now, as Nuwaupians, we let go of what we thought was the truth or what we thought was fact, because in our minds we believed it to be true based upon what we was told to us. And so now we have to get back to where we are, which is most of us are already there, but we still have problems. The biggest thing that is the obstacle to getting to that 9th principle, or as the title is, Christ consciousness, is your willpower. What allows you to get to the I or the self is you. You have to realize, first of all, the will of self is the only thing that is going to allow you to get there. And the only way that you can tap into that will, that 180 degrees of the agreeable, 180 degrees of the disagreeable, and encompasses and creates 360 degrees of the physical world, and trying to get back to 720 degrees, going into the spiritual world, to manifest from a circle to a sphere or a square to a cube, is that you have to let go of what you are being bonded by. The only way you can have true willpower and you can define what will truly is letting go what the chain is around you. This is very difficult to most people. I'm not saying leave your house right now, quit your job, and go move in the woods. No. But you have to find the time in your schedule to make these necessary steps, to break that chain at certain times. You follow? Because you'll never get there. Will is defined by the Chinese culture as yin and yang. But in ancient Egypt, it is known as Shin and Shem. And it is defined as Shin is essentially a subjective sound, meaning it is taking place within your mind, whereas Shem is an objective one. So it's both of the same situation. They both are of the same weight, same mass, for lack of a better word, but they're going in two different directions. So we have to realize once you are mastering the doctrine of polarity as well, because it still encompasses into that will. If you can master the doctrine of polarity, you are mostly on your way. That is the biggest thing, is that we see these 9 principles as steps, because we saw the 7 chakras as steps or doorways, and these are all things that exist within you. You follow? That is the biggest problem. Again, Egyptian terminology to get the yin and yang out of your mind for these polarities has an exceptional worth as the words Shin and Shem, which principles are exposed or expressed and defined through their actual sounds. These polarities, the subjective and objective sides of our being and their combinations, transformations, and in-between stages makes up our total experience, and is sometimes called the dance of Shin and Shem, where the Chinese got their yin and yang from. Yin is the passive, feminine principle in Chinese dualistic philosophy, and yang is the active, masculine principle in Chinese dualistic philosophy. These two symbols, to them, coincide with ought and naught, good and evil, positive and negative, God and the devil, angels and demons. So it's an inward battle within self, what you ought to do and what you should or not to do. You at the level of 9, you are at naught and aught. Excuse me, once you are at 8, which is again 4 and 4, you are at the point of naught and aught. You have not left the body yet. You are at the point where you are at the head. You are at, as we would term, the molar. You are at that point. Before I tell you exactly what the 9 principles are, I'm going to use certain terms. So you are not outside the body yet. You are not at 9. But you have to realize the only way for you to get outside that body is that you have to get back in touch with your etheric cord. You have to get back in touch with the other side of things. Because the biggest thing that he wanted us to learn, aside from the mystery of God, because the mystery of God has been solved because you are God, is the next level of what's called nothingness, that supreme balancement state. That state that is in existence, but because it doesn't sum up to weight, the Tamahu or human beast's culture says it doesn't exist. But yet they say that a God concept exists that you cannot see. So all they're doing is playing a trick on your eyes. So when you're dealing with where we're trying to get you, which is at the state of nothingness, you're referring to the situation of subatomic energy. And so when you refer to the Stargate scroll, Pagotut, they say the main purpose is that you have to get to a point when you're able to travel through different space and times anytime you want to and anytime you feel like it. That is where we are trying to get to right now. So when you're dealing with what's called, again, Christ consciousness, you are dealing with a point where, and I'm using that word just for people who are coming in and don't really know, is that you're dealing with a state where you are a perfected being. Christianity or Islam or Judaism says you can never become perfect, and that is incorrect. Because if you have a destiny to become, if you are in the image at the likeness of God or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or Yahovah or Jah, you have a destiny to become perfect because according to your doctrine, they were perfect. So that is, again, certain things that are stopping us from getting to that perfected state. If we can get to that perfected state, then we have no need for everything that we're going through anymore. All of the attachments are gone, all of your worries are gone, and these things have to be calmed down now before you even get these into practice. These different things that seem so important to you, that is jogging your, that is keeping your mind jogged on this hamster-like species state that you are stuck on, and that is our biggest problem as Nubians in this state, in this physical state, on our way back to perfection. So the next step is realizing that we have taken on different practices that are not our own. And what I mean by that is that one of the biggest things that we have stopped knowing how to do is breathe properly. And my father wrote a book. You have to realize the doctrine, as my father said back in 2007, is a puzzle that we were supposed to put together. And he wrote a book called, in our language, Smai, or the breath. The breath scroll was supposed to be eaten up by all of us to get us back to where we need to be, because proper breathing is very necessary, because we have taken on a breath or a breathing practice that is not our own. You have to realize the Caucasoids have nasal drainage problems. That means that they breathe in their mouth and out their nose, and that is part of what's called their disease, which is called leproma or leprosy. You followed that, and I'm going to quote again from the 9 Principles of the Human Being, page 16. This union with divine principle within and without of us, our higher or real self, is termed smah in the Egyptian mystery language, which predates Sanskrit. The Hindus called it yoga, and the word smah, in fact, means union. Yoga comes down to us in the English word yoke or yoga. The Latin word yogum is derived from it and gives us the English word married. To follow, so it's derived, or it is explained as a union within self. So we have to get to a point where, and these different practices such as yoga is very necessary now for brothers and sisters. Yoga is not just a feminine practice, it's a masculine practice, because we have to be able to breathe properly. One of the biggest things of yoga is being able to breathe properly. The different positions that you're in, realize yoga started in Africa first before it was an extreme form that is practiced in Hinduism. So we have to take on better breathing. You understand what I'm saying? Does anyone have any questions before I go on?
I do,
yeah,
brother.
I had a question actually.
Okay, go ahead.
Like I'm listening, and I definitely understand a lot of information that you're putting together. The question I had was, when you get to a certain level of vibration, is it that I think the difficulty comes in when trying to maintain it? It's almost like buying a house and keeping a house. You get to a certain level, and you think that you'll stay there, remain there for a certain time, and there's always room for more information or moving up, levels of information or vibration. But sometimes I think there's like battles on every levels, and sometimes just being able to balance the duality of your spiritual and your physical. Just trying to get to that point. So how do you, as far as to maintain the, once you move up levels or different chakras, or so to speak, how do you maintain,
concentration? Once you get to those different states or those different principles within yourself, it's being able to stay on the concentrated factor. You have to realize the biggest things or the smallest things that we have difficulty doing, such as sitting still for a long period of time. A lot of us can't even sit in the lotus position because of back problems. A lot of us can't sit in the lotus position because, again, we can't breathe properly. The concentration factor comes in because when we get there, are we ready for what we're about to see? If you remember, the Mystery of Egyptian Ma'at tape talks about concentration, also talks about all the implantation that is in your mind because of everything we've been through on this physical world, on this level of carnal desire. That was another problem that we're going to face, or that you're going to face, aside from just concentration. So now let's just imagine you've gone over the implantation, you're done with the implantation. The biggest step is the form of concentration. You follow? So it's about clearing your mind, and it's all about management of what's going on in your world. Because I can tell you to sit down, get in lotus position, and then bam, I'm there. But you have to do the work on a level of just concentration. It's about staying on that thought process. It's being able to have a schedule, because you can remember when you got to those points within yourself, because all these different principles, it's not about, not the plane of fours, this and that and this and that. Realize all these seven chakras and everything that we were taught about in Islam was nothing but points of frequencies within ourselves. They were just nothing but different vibrational levels. That's all they were. So when you get to certain density levels within yourself, or vibrational levels, you have to find a point where when you come down, that at some point you can get right back there again. That is a point of concentration. That means that it's all, at the end of the day, it goes back to mental. And that's a manifestation within yourself when you talk about the mental plane. Because the manifestation of the mental plane is what we know as the mental reservoir, where all thoughts are picked and manifested in our minds. So you have to be able to concentrate on that specific state that you are at. That's what it's about. It's not so much about, can I get back there whenever I feel like it? You can, but it's all about your concentrational level. Some people can concentrate better than others. That is the biggest thing, is that a lot of us as blacks have difficulty concentrating. Even just the physical sense of just sitting in the lotus position, which people don't know, is that was based upon different petals. Lotuses were petals that were up and down the Nile of ancient Egypt. You follow? That's the reason why that was a position that we picked. And the first one that we modeled ourselves after in that position was I am Hotep of ancient Egypt. So it's all about that concentration factor. You can get back there whenever you feel like it in your regular world, depending on your level of concentration and depending on your level of where you are within yourself. Does that answer your question? Well, I guess it did. It didn't say anything else.
Unmuted, but yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't know. But, anyone have any more questions? Okay. So we're going down to page 18 to explain even further the aloneness or the I-ness. Aloneness derives from all oneness, which is the experience of wholeness or integration at the spiritual level. So no God or law can be one God or the God alone, as mentioned in the Surah Ikhlas, the 112th chapter of the Quran, which states, say He God is one alone, because there is a we and us. And I don't mean in creation, I mean me and you, who says there is only one God, monad. The devil becomes a second part, duad, and we the third part, triad. In that form, God, devil, humans. So God can never be alone, needless or self-sufficient. This God needs us to know Him or acknowledge His existence, or He would never have revealed the Bible and the Quran. For without those books inspired by Him, He would not exist. He needs you to be known, recognized, remembered. Without you, there is no kind of God, Allah, or deity. You make God, Allah, Lord, Reb, Christ, Rahma, deity, Yahweh, because you don't have physical proof they exist. But you found Isis, Osiris, Ramesses, etc. Our gods are real and live through us, but not your spook gods. He needs you more than you need him. You follow? So, realizing that the I goes back to the 9th letter of the English alphabet, which is what? I. The I or self. When you're dealing with, as well, going back into the 7, just to give you a further explanation of why they use 7, they're going back into the G. G is the 7th letter of the English alphabet. Islam, if you notice, the 5% use G because this letter symbolizes God. So now, when you're dealing with the 9, when we're going back into 9 or 9th principle, you're dealing with the I, not the ego or the I of ego, but the I of oneness of self. You follow? So you're going back into the I, and you're taking on what's called, what my father referred to as the mask of God. You're putting on the mask of God. And once you put on that mask of God, then what you're doing is you are stepping back and you're looking at everything that you do as something that you are creating and enacting yourself. Because all the deities, from Ta, the creator deity, to Khanum, the creator deity, the fashioner, the molder of that clay, that is all you, that you are nothing but the manifestation of these specific deities now. So when you put on that mask of God, you realize it goes back to what we mentioned earlier of cause and effect. You have to be the cause of situations and not the affected of the situations. Most of us, as Nubians or Africans in this country, or Nuwaupians, have a problem. We are the ones that are always affected. So most of us don't even think on this level of getting back to 9. And you have to realize when you're dealing with those of different races of people, we taught them, when you're dealing with the Egyptian mysteries, the 9 principle doctrine, the doctrine of Zhahuti, you're dealing with a doctrine that was given to the Western world by us. When we went into certain parts of Europe, certain parts of all over the world, we gave them certain different forms or certain information that they were only privileged to. They were only they were only privileged to 3 degrees of Freemasonry. And they realized that there are 9 degrees. They don't know about the 9. So we gave them what we felt that they were ready for, or what we knew that their mind can only contain. Just like we talked about before in several classes back, is that the beast man only goes up to 6. His intelligence only goes up to 6. So therefore, and just his being itself only goes up to 6. So after a certain point, once he makes a transition, there is no transition. His transition is to death, and that's it. It's done. It's a wrap for him and his being. So when you are dealing with us as a people in this planet, we have to have the thought process of non-ether. Physically, you are not non-ether, but you can get to that state. It's not about saying, well, I can't get there. It's only Dr. Malachi Z. York. No, because he is a replica of 720 degrees of the physical in the form of the spiritual. You follow? You have different avatars who died very recently, or a different Sechi Sai Baba. Back on Who and What Are You? The Who and What Are You tape from the True Light series, he mentioned Sechi Sai Baba and Sai Baba. Sechi Sai Baba was an avatar who just died recently, or made his transition just recently. And he was one of the few avatars to exist still on this planet other than just my father. Because Sai Baba died several years back, and Sai Baba just died a couple of years ago. And the only one left now is my father, Dr. Malachi Z. York. So the information that he's bringing to us was, as the Stargate talked about, is to bring you back to that 9th level so you can get past the 9th gate. You follow? Everything that we're going through right now are smoke screens of life. Your life is now become a proverbial filibuster or a smoke screen, because your mental is now being dominated by things that are just purely physical. Most people don't tune in to classes like this because they're not talking about extraterrestrials and beating down Christians. But they'd rather sit and just, they want to be deep and heavy, but they're not willing to do the work. If you're not willing to do the work, then you're already dead. Realize that the real you, there is no real gender. Because think about it, and I'm referring back to page 18 of 9 Principles. In the first stage in the womb, there is no difference until they leave the state of dependence and become independent. And again, we have to stress part of the body that we are neglecting the certain things that we do to ourselves. And one of the biggest things is our intake, not just our breath intake, but our food intake. I talked to a sister today about uric acid. The Mind Scroll talks about that you are not supposed to take in uric acid within yourself. And so when you are constantly still cheating and not taking on different diets that you were supposed to take, because one of the letters of my father that I remember getting from him is you either go with the Dr. Sebi diet, which is helping you make that transition physically, or you study what you are supposed to take based upon your blood type. If you're not doing either or, you have not even started yet. And if you have not started yet, then this is not for you. You understand what I'm saying? So this is where we are supposed to be doing, transforming yourselves inside out. And the next level, the minute level of transforming yourself inside out, is being able to see people for what they are. Most people are transforming themselves inside out and allowing you to see them for who they really are, whether they're good or bad, good people or black devils. So they are now becoming what we refer to as energy drainers. They're either energy drainers or they're giving you energy. So you have to define amongst you who is surrounding you, who is either energy drainers or who are bringing energy to you. That is one mission that you have to realize. And also, going back to the intake, if you are putting too much in yourself physically, then the spirit will be neglected. But again, on the other way around, because realize mentally, you have to look at things as nothing but polar opposites of each other. Nothing but polar opposites of each other. If you're looking at it from like good or bad, that's back into religion again. So when you are feeding the spirit world, for example, when you are constantly fasting, when you are taking the practice of fasting and you are reading your Guidance from the Master series and you're reading the Patarak and you are just intaking knowledge of self, then you are learning to vibrate on a higher frequency. And it's not just on a high pitch, because you have to realize, I'm going to go into the next class, is that we have an instrument called a lute. And for that lute, you had certain frequencies that lute would touch. And that lute would touch certain frequencies because that instrument was created first in Africa, or as ancient Egypt. And you have what's called the piano today, which is a different form of the lute, but you have what's called, again, another one as well as the guitar, the bass guitar, or the electric guitar, which was taken from the lute instrument. You understand what I'm saying? So anytime you do what's called the lute, because the purpose of the lute at a certain point was to open up the different parts of your body that was clogged, your liquid systems. If you had mucus inside of you, was able to get those things out of you if you were sick. So it was going back into the essence, or they never left it themselves, but it's going back into the essence of taking music and allowing it to heal you. And I'm going to quote page 25. The deeper notes are produced as a result of the string vibrating more slowly and much thicker, and the bass string is at the top of the lute, which produced the deep notes. Going further down, when the string of the instrument vibrates more quickly, it produces a higher screeching note that's at the bottom. They purposely reverse this to make you think that the deeper notes are at the bottom, when in fact they're on the top, the left-hand side. Blacks have deeper voices than whites. We start at the top down to the bottom. On the piano, it's the same. The low notes are on the left and the high notes are on the right. The human heart is on the left side, the seat of emotions. We tend to like warm sounds and deep voices because our voices vibrate. They have a screeching sound to their voices like howling wolves. So when you're dealing with what's called the lute gave off a certain deep vibration within yourself. So we knew it's the same thing when you dealt with that drum. That drum gave off a certain vibration, because the perception in our minds is that the higher the frequency, the louder the sound, we're vibrating faster. No. When you are going back into that specific vibration of that drum, or as you hit that string or that chord of that lute, that is able to help you as well to vibrate within yourself back to the ninth principle. That is still part of that. Those two specific instruments, the lute and the drum. That's why he said to go back to certain sounds or certain music, such as African music. These specific directions were needed. That a lot of us didn't understand or didn't take into account the certain things that he was doing over the last 5 or 6 years, that he was telling you. He's literally preparing you to turn yourself inside out or get back to the state of 9. Anyone have any questions?
I do, brother.
Go ahead.
Okay. How do you spell that instrument, the lute?
O-U-D.
O-U-D?
O-U-D. And you put it in the search engine online, just put O-U-D.
Okay, now is that the same instrument that's on the visualization tape?
Yeah, same one.
Okay.
It's the same one. I think it was Hamza El-Din used to use the same instrument. if you remember, in the Sudanese, Hamza al-Din was Sudanese, and at certain points in our, we had certain parties, and Hamza al-Din, I know from what I was told from elders, is that he would come and he would play for my father. So he was doing his best to realign us. And so, these classes are necessary for us for alignment time. It's been alignment time over the past 13 years. It's just that what we're going through right now is starting to slow that time up. But we have to make that transition within ourselves now. Otherwise, these books would not be necessary, and or these classes as well would not be necessary.
So it's pronounced Lud, but it's spelled
O-U-D.
Not with you are O-U-D, not with the L at all.
Right. When you put it in, you put like lute. If you put lute instrument, it's automatically going to come up, and it'll probably give you pronounced L-O-O-D, because it's pronounced lute, like two O's. Right. So that is the instrument. I didn't even know what the name of the instrument was until I did further research. It's called a lute. That is, all instruments at one point was used for healing and vibrational purposes.
Yeah. Well, your father mentions that instrument on the visualization tape, but I can't really make it out exactly what he's saying. But now it's making sense. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Does anyone have any more questions before we end it? Because we're gonna go even further next week. We have a lot more in these classes about what to do and what not to do. It's very necessary now. Anyone have any questions before I close down? Okay. Well, I will be on next week for the part 2 series of this. And why do everybody? How to wash it?